Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Observable Flutter. My name is Craig Labenz, and I'm your host. And today, I'm excited to be joined by the founder and CEO, and maybe still CTO. I don't know. We can ask him in just a moment. Of one of my absolute favorite projects in the Dart space. That, of course, is Serverpod. So, there's a lot that we are going to see today that I also have not yet seen, though I've heard whisperings of it. And I'm very excited. So let's dive in. But remember, folks, this is the Flutter community. We know what that means. All right, today's guest, also yesterday's guest, yesteryear's guest, a 3 or 4 time Observable Flutter veteran, Viktor Lidholt, dialing in straight from Sweden. And he is here to tell us all about Serverpod 4.0, which is just over the horizon. So, Viktor, welcome back to Observable Flutter. Would you like to say a few words to reintroduce yourself?
Right. Thanks for having me again. Yeah, I'm Viktor. I'm founder of Serverpod. Used to work on the Flutter team way back when, before the 1.0 release. Now we're building a backend for Flutter developers, but it's turning more into sort of a full stack whole project. So I'm really excited to show that. We are planning on releasing Serverpod 4 in early September. We have a beta version out, so everything I'll show you today, you can try out at home, and it's super easy to get started. So,
All right.
yeah.
Great. Yeah. I love that you started on the Flutter team, lived in California, lived very close to where I live, and now are doing a backend complement to Flutter. So you have walked the entire full stack, development life in the Flutter world by working on Flutter itself and now working on Serverpod.
Yeah, actually, Serverpod is like the fourth backend framework I'm building. I've been
Yeah,
working
you
on.
mentioned, you said something to the effect of like, after you'd made Serverpod, presumably more primitive versions of it multiple times, you got tired of it and thought, well, boy, I guess like every Flutter developer needs this. And, then the business idea light bulb went off.
Right. So yeah, I built a Flutter app before we made a news app. And I mean, I really missed having a Dart backend for it. I started writing it in Python, and that was not a great experience.
Yeah, I know you don't like Python.
Not my favorite, but I mean, it has some good tooling. I'll give it that. But I think as a language, Dart is so much better, and it's actually a really good language to have on the back end as well.
Yeah,
So
I agree with some of that. I use Python for 10, Viktor and I have had this conversation 3 times and maybe twice on Observable Flutter already, but I used Python for about 10 years before finding Dart in Flutter and loved Python's strengths of runtime metaprogramming. I think the Django ORM is really, really awesome and is made possible by just the full, unended, kind of demented level of runtime metaprogramming that you can do in Python. But what giveth taketh away, and that runtime metaprogramming makes static analysis in Python really, really hard. And I was personally getting very tired of that. And so when I found Dart, it is, of course, just like it's almost a polar opposite language from Python. I mean, it's different in just about every possible way. All these spectrums. Oh, I've bumped my microphone. All these spectrums that languages have to choose, like what strength are we going to take at this other cost that we're not going to take that strength. Like Python and Dart have chosen the opposite things in almost every single question. So I was really positioned to love Dart because it was the exact opposite of the things in Python that I was tired of, even though I still like Python. And I certainly agree. I think Dart is like, I don't go on and on and on about Dart because I work at Google. I work at Google because I was going on and on and on about Dart. So I do definitely think Dart is the most ergonomic, most lovely language to use. It is just so, so, so nice. So I totally agree with you on that part.
Yeah, I like how versatile it is. And you can take Dart text files basically and just run them like you do with Python. You can also compile them to sort of kernel byte-like code that you can run on any platform with the Dart command, or you can compile it to native. And obviously, you also have the hot reload, which is awesome, which I'm going to show you today for the full stack, not just the Flutter app like we're used to.
Yeah, I've been wondering what exactly this means, and obviously I could have just downloaded the Serverpod 4 beta and seen it for myself in like 3 minutes, but I am a man of suspense and I like to leave things for an Observable Flutter show once I know that they're coming. So obviously there's Serverpod generate is kind of the main command that
Yeah.
reconstitutes a Serverpod, the server-side world of Serverpod. And Dart Frog has had server-side hot reload for a while, but it doesn't have as much going on as you have in Serverpod because there's no implied ORM. There's no implied database situation at all in Dart Frog. You bring your own. So I have been very curious to just see like how many of all the things Serverpod's gotten your paws on for this full stack hot reload feature.
Right. So if you look at Dart Frog's hot reload, what it does is the sort of most basic version of hot reload, where you just replace the code that you have changed at runtime, which is also what's happening in the Flutter app. But Flutter is structured in a way so that most of the time, actually it rebuilds stuff the way Flutter is structured. The hot reload works really well. For backends, it's not the same exactly. You have many different types of components. You have a database with that can change the schema. In Serverpod, we have code generation, and all these pieces need to fit together somehow if you want to have a true hot reload experience. So there are a lot of stuff in play, and we managed to figure out how to pull all this together so we can both apply database migration while the service is running. We can replace the code. We can regenerate the code, both for your backend, but also for your Flutter app, because Serverpod works in a way where you add just methods to your server. We'll analyze your server code. We recreate those methods in your Flutter app. So when you call a method on the server, it's like calling a local method, right? So whenever we do a hot reload, we need to reload this, reconnect all the bindings, get them over to your Flutter app, hot reload the Flutter app. But there's a lot of steps involved, basically. So it's much more complex than just replacing the code. That's the sort of easy part because that's built into Dart already. But like connecting all the other pieces together, that's a real challenge.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see it. And you were talking about the difference between hot reloading on the server versus Flutter, and I was just thinking like there's essentially two aspects that make hot reload, aside from the technical bits which Dart just solves for all of us. There's two technical bits that are challenging that like Flutter had to solve and that Serverpod had to at least think about. One, right, we don't just call it hot reload, it's stateful hot reload. You maintain your state, but servers are generally stateless. Now they're not if you have like an open WebSocket connection, like that would be some state. So like it's like kind of stateless, kind of stateful, depending. And then the other thing is just initialization code, because it's not obvious that you would want your initialization code to rerun. But if you do want it to rerun, that's when in Flutter you have to do a hot restart instead of a hot reload. So I'm also curious to see how you're handling things like if you register a listener or you register like an async task in your startup code. Once I register another one, I'm going to be curious to see, do I now need to do something equivalent to a Flutter hot restart because I changed my init code? Anyway, I'm sure you've, of course, thought about all these things. I'm just seeding the field for the demo that we're going to see shortly.
We basically wrote it the same way as the Flutter framework.
That's
so we
Flutter,
have
yep.
stateful hot reload, but we also have a hot restart because sometimes you need to like read the initial configurations and stuff. So just hit the R key on your keyboard and you'll do the hot restart.
Well, oh, I'm excited, and this cord is really in my way, and I keep bumping it. So let me try to solve that. I'm ready to get building. If you are, is it time?
Let's do it.
All right. So I'm going to bring up your screen and mute myself so I continue to wrestle with my microphone. It's not loud for everybody. Okay, the stage is yours.
Thank you. Okay, my plan. I'll see if I can get my cursor over to the other screen here. Oh, there we go. So the plan for today is building an app we call Vote Squad. That's basically a live Q&A app where we can ask questions and upload them. And I was thinking we could potentially, instead of asking questions, have ideas for features for the app that we can build, because it will not take very long to build the app itself. So I'm going to start by, do a Serverpod quick start. We added a new command. There's also Serverpod create that will give you more options. The quick start will do the default configuration that we think is best for most users.
So that's Postgres, the full, basically like the full deployment, or is it tuned down from the maximum deployment at all?
Yeah. So let's do that. And we now have a nice interface. So you can pick your AI agent you're planning to use, because that is now a thing. I'm going to use Cursor. And I'm using that today because Cursor has the composer model that's really fast and pretty decent. So it will be very fast to build something with that. And then we just hit create.
This is really cool.
It works with, I think you typically get a little bit better quality if you use Claude, but then it will take like 10 minutes to build an app. So now we created a new project. It's just a directory. I'm going to open that in Cursor. And let me move that into here. Maybe I can up the, making it a little bit bigger. All right, so no, is this one? I gave a demo a little bit earlier for investor. Did it not open there?
Turns out this is not the first project you've ever made on your computer.
There
are other projects as
well. Let's see here. Projects. See if that works.
There's.
Oh, okay.
There's the.
It opened this annoying. What's it called? The non-IDE view, which is.
Honestly, I don't like that view either. It's for someone, obviously. People like it. So I don't want to hate on it too much, but it isn't for me. I don't like it.
All right. So if we do the non-IDE, that works too, by the way. But in that case, we will need to run the CLI somewhere else, I think. So I'm going to open the IDE so we can run the command line.
Yeah, you're going to open the IDE because you're a serious person. Just kidding. People that don't use the IDE are also serious.
Okay, but it didn't want to change to that.
Nice.
It's like Cursor. Every time I swear, every time I open it, it's worse.
There's a term for that involves a swear word that I'm not going to say.
Yeah, let's not go there, but I know what you're talking about. All right, we now have it, and in Cursor, I did. Oh, let's see here. in the customize part of settings, you need to make sure you have the MCP servers enabled, otherwise it will not work as well. But with that in place, we can now just run Serverpod start. Serverpod start is our new way of running Serverpod. So it has a really nice terminal interface where you see both the logs from the server, but Serverpod start will not just run your server, it will also manage your Flutter app. So by default, it opens in Chrome, but you can obviously set it to open any
whatever device.
Chrome works pretty well because I guess you don't need to have Xcode, and it's always there basically.
Yeah, until you know you need to be in Android or iOS, it's just Chrome for sure.
All right, and of course it did open this up on another screen.
Give it time, it'll start opening things on a different computer.
Yeah. Well,
how'd you launch that on my home computer?
So here we now have the basic example app. So if I enter your name here and hit return, you can see that we get a response. So it's just to test that out, basically.
So real quick here, for anyone who's new to Serverpod, this is kind of your version of the counter app. And what this does is send a string to the server, and all the server does is prepend hello and send it back. So this just proves a round trip. There's no database query. There's nothing like that. It just, the network layer works. That's the proof of this.
Yeah. So what we did when we created this new project is we set up the project, obviously, and we started the server. We started a database, so you no longer need to have a Docker container to run your database. We have written our own version of Postgres that can run embedded. So you use that in your development environment. So you don't have to set up a Docker container or start Postgres somewhere else and manage that. So that just works. So whenever you run Serverpod start, it starts your database and connects to it, and when you Serverpod start, it shuts it down, and it's like almost.
You did what now? You wrote your own version of Postgres? What?
Basically, yes, to make this work.
Does it have like extensions? Does it? I mean, what percentage of Postgres's functionality did you mimic? This is crazy.
We added all extensions that we are supporting in Serverpod natively. So you have.
Okay, that's fair.
You have a vector database, and you have what is that called? Like a geolocation support.
Oh, GIS.
Yeah, exactly. PostGIS is in this embedded version as well. But if you need more other custom extensions, then you can still run Postgres in a Docker container or
just on your host machine or wherever. Yeah.
I mean, you can potentially have it in the cloud or wherever. You just tell Serverpod where to connect to it in the configuration file. But out of the box, we made it work just super well.
Well, that's lovely.
That is pretty neat, because that was a big hassle, and the feedback a lot of users asked us to do SQLite, I think for this reason, because it's pretty hard to manage your Postgres server. So we actually have support for SQLite in Serverpod now too. But then we figured, why don't we just make it work really well with Postgres, because that is sort of a better alternative to servers.
I think that, first of all, adding SQLite support is really, really, really nice. Did it force you to abstract out? Like, I imagine in the original version of Serverpod, it was kind of coupled to Postgres. I don't know. Maybe you thought about this from day one, but did you have to like really abstract and kind of rethink, like make your database bindings super pluggable? So it could be you slot Postgres in or you slot SQLite in. You know, did you kind of have to go through that journey?
Yeah, we tried to, from day one, build it somewhat extendable, but
Nice, you're
there was a
smarter
bit
than
of
me.
work
Got it.
to make that work. We actually in Serverpod 4 also have support for a client-side SQLite, so you can use the exact same ORM on your client. And
It's pretty sick.
in Serverpod 4, this is the even sicker version of this. We're releasing a preview. This will be part of 4.1. We didn't manage to do all the tests and reviews that we wanted to have in place, but it's like sort of an experimental feature, but it will very soon be stable. And that is full offline sync. So you can just write something to your SQLite using our type-safe Dart-first ORM in your Flutter app, and it will automatically sync with the database. And it works with not just on a per row level, it's actually per cell in the database, if you will, which is
per field.
Yep. And it works with database relations, which is super duper hard to make work. We have like a genius engineer, Marcelo, that worked on this. So big shout out to him. Took him 18 months to build this. So that
Marcelo is a genius. I agree. Having worked with him briefly, y'all got an absolute Giga Chad S tier engineer when you found Marcelo. I don't know what like spaceship from the future he crash landed on, Earth from, but
to be fair, we have a couple of those on the team, but
nice. Yeah.
Well,
that's why you're so successful. Got it.
All right, maybe we can start building the app and we can jap at the same time. So I'm just going to type in a little prompt here. Build live Q&A voting app. People submit questions, others upvote them, and the most popular rise to the top. And you're going to like this. Use real-time streaming.
Nice.
Of the data and anonymous sign in.
Oh, how do you have anonymous? Because I've been working on that feature, but it's not done yet.
It's done, right?
Well, it's mostly done. What you can't yet do is merge accounts. So if you ever need to merge accounts, then it will work. Yes.
Okay, I guess we won't be merging any accounts. I know that is not that far off, but let's try that. So, I'm using now I'm using Composer, which is like the cheapest model Cursor offers. So we'll see how long time.
Nice.
That will take usually 2-3 minutes, maybe.
All right. Well, back to joke hour. Let's see what else. I'm actually really excited to read the code that it comes up with here. Kind of see like exactly what the Serverpod APIs look like that it's that it's going to use and that we would have used in the pre-AI era. Let's see. Oh, Randall's saying that takes nerves of steel. I think he means by just vibe coding this in one shot here. He said a really good AI plan that won't run out mid-show. I'm not sure which. So before that, he said that takes nerves of steel. I'm not sure what that was. Maybe it was using their cheapest model, takes nerves of steel.
Yeah, sure. Maybe. We'll see. You never know, right, with the AI stuff. But usually it works. And you can see it's working away now, but it's also hot restarting the server when it does edits. That's what in the log. So it will show you both the server logs as it's working and the Flutter app log here.
So the app is running on the right-hand side there. I presume that means that we're going to see it hot restart and like look different before long here, right?
Yep, that's what we're hoping for.
Nice.
Do
Do you have a bunch of new skills with this release that are helping the AI stay on track here?
Yeah, so when you create a new project, we not just create like the Serverpod setup with that can run the start command and the app. You also get to pick your AI agent. So depending on which agent you pick, all these different agents for some reason have different standards
Different structure.
where
I know,
you
it's so annoying.
install like your MCP servers and your skills and all that. So we have modified that to work on all popular AI agents. So in this case, with
while it's cooking, can you can you show us the skills and the, you know, just kind of the whole harness that was stamped out? I see the .cursor file there, or folder.
Absolutely. So in the cursor, you have our skills here. So we install all the Flutter skills. And then we have our Serverpod skills here.
Nice. So oh my gosh, nice.
For everything from authentication to how you work with data models. And it's usually pretty good at picking the right skills. And then we also have the configuration for the MCP server here.
Mm-hmm. Do you, I imagine as a team, like, you know, as the Serverpod core team, you've got your public documentation on docs.serverpod.dev, and you have all your skills, and those are, I presume, largely just the same content. Do you have a kind of infrastructure pipeline that you've built up for yourselves to keep them in sync, or are you maintaining them separately? Like how are you as a team working on that?
So the skills are part of the main repository. So we make sure to update them. And we have done quite a bit of testing to get them to this level. And tested them with like lower tier models. And I mean, it's not perfect, but it's, most of the time it works pretty well. We actually got an app now.
We do.
It did not look like it did an anonymous sign in here, though.
No, it did. At the bottom, continue without account.
Oh, right. Maybe it did both. Wow. Wait, shall we try sign in first? So I can show this.
Whatever you like, yeah.
How that works. So I'm going to create an account just to show how that will work. So you create an account and,
nice.
Okay, maybe it did not implement that. All right, let's try to continue without account. Okay, that worked better. So we have the questions here. How awesome is Serverpod?
It's pretty awesome, actually.
Awesome. And there's like a little light. Maybe we can try to open a new window here and see if that works.
I guess you have to, fully. Boy, oh man, Chrome just lives to cache stuff.
Yeah, I think that is an issue here. How do we get? Oh, I can open an anonymous window probably. Let's try that.
Yeah, man, Chrome's obsession with caching things. Wait a minute, what? What's going on? How is this possible?
I am not sure.
I wonder, does like a hot restart not update like build things? I wonder if you have to run like Flutter run -d web server. I think that would, you are doing Command Shift R, right? But you're also opening it in new incognito windows, so that should not have a cache.
So maybe the window didn't work so well, but we can. I think by like restarting everything, it will probably work. But something I just wanted to point out here before that didn't work. Maybe it's something we can figure out. But What's pretty cool is that we never did a restart, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we didn't even do a hot restart. We did all this with hot reload.
Nice. I
So
suspect that's why the other window isn't working,
it
which
might be.
could be an issue, you know, like a GitHub issue in the near future to sort that out. But
We can try it again and see. Just restart
yeah,
it.
I think this time it'll work in every window. If it doesn't, then I guess we just don't live in reality anymore and nothing matters.
Sometimes it's like the caching can be weird. That is.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
pretty
Chrome
curious.
caches things like it gets paid per cache hit.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, the old
And
like
sometimes
engineers
it
paid
caches
per
like
line of code.
if you get the same port number, it can be confused. So maybe that's
Yeah.
potentially what could have happened.
Thankfully,
But
the odds of that are low on account of it being a 5-digit space of port numbers.
right. Okay. So we have a new window there.
That is definitely a different port.
Oh, did I? Connection lost. Retry. Okay. That worked. So that was.
That's nice that it put a little like reconnect flow in there.
Yeah, looks like it. And now we have another window.
Hey. All right.
So let's see if it's actually.
All right.
Oh, that's pretty cool. You see, updated both sides.
It updated the right side faster than I could move my eyeballs over to it and see the change.
So that's pretty neat.
I am, if you're so inclined, I don't know if this would be a big detour from the schedule that you have planned. I think it would be cool to look at some of the code that's powering this. So people can appreciate just how clean Serverpod's APIs are.
We'll see. That is something we definitely can have a look at. No idea what it's written, so
it's going to be.
I'd
say let's basically focus on the server side. I think that's yeah.
So it added a QIA feature here.
Okay, love that for us.
So it has. So the .spy.yaml files are Serverpod models. So for instance, here it's added an exception. Already go to the exception, and it has a message string. Let's see. It's usually a pretty good idea to have a look at the models first, I feel like, because that gives you an idea of the structure. And then it has an endpoint for the QA. So question changed. So you can update questions. That's pretty cool.
Extend type. Okay, so there's. Can we look at that update type? 2 down. I kind of want to see that one next. Added, voted. Oh, so this. Oh, yeah. It's like going. It's not doing this in like a REST way at all. Obviously, Serverpod is never REST. It's like RPC style, but it's not even just doing like CRUD. It's got a message.
Yeah.
Payload that internally has an enum, and interesting.
Yeah. So this is an enum. Yeah. Upvoted. Question vote. So this is stored in the database, which is cool. And it created indexes and everything and database relations to the question.
Nice. Does so this is running on the local Serverpod clone of Postgres, right?
Yeah.
Is that a thing that one can connect to? Like, is it Postgres wire compatible? Could I connect to it with a Postgres client to see these rows in a database table, or is that not a thing?
Yes, you certainly can. So.
Oh my gosh, you guys are crazy!
Crazy.
That's awesome.
Let's see. There is a command for this.
Oh my goodness.
So,
you got to be kidding me.
Odds. Maybe. if I can figure this out. This is...
So there's Serverpod database. I don't know if that would be the entry point.
Yeah, that could be.
So Serverpod database help.
Yeah, I think that's maybe dash h. Okay, yeah. So you do server pod. So.
Yeah, I think what I'm looking for must be somewhere else. We can worry about it later.
Okay, yeah. So but basically, you can do this by running a command, and then it will give you a connection string. Maybe it doesn't work while the server is running, possibly.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure
there's definitely
we'll put that on the back burner of things I'm curious about.
But I do know we do have something
cool
for that. Something else I wanted to show though is say maybe for this app there was a bug there that we definitely did want to fix. So
the email login not working.
Yeah. So can we say sign in with email and just sign.
Oh, that's a way to fix the bug. That's actually my favorite way to fix bugs. If somebody says feature X has bug Y, I'm like,
yeah,
well, it won't after I delete feature X.
But let's look at the endpoint made here. That could be quite interesting.
Yeah.
This is the actual Dart code. So it creates a QI endpoint. And the way Serverpod works is that you add these endpoints and then you add Dart methods. So these are the ones we call from our Flutter app. And you can actually return a future here. So submit question. It will take a text, which I assume is the question, and then returns a question object, which is one of these models that we created in the YAML files. And then it will post the message. And
so that's for the real-time sync. It looks like there. That's kind of the real-time channel.
So basically, we have a message central. If you every call gets a session, and that has access to a message central, you can post messages internally on a channel inside of Serverpod, or if you're running a cluster of multiple servers, then then that can work over Redis, so you can pass them between the multiple servers.
So earlier, I misinterpreted something when I was saying that this was doing message passing, because we were looking at that question message model. That was actually just for the real-time sync. That was not for the actual client to server initial writes. What comes in, if you scroll up a little more, we
should have something that really returns the stream here.
Well, it looks like I think you just scrolled past it. Yeah, right there.
Oh,
96.
The question updates, we get question stream message back.
And so that's what the message passing was. To actually create a message, the client simply does pass a message instance to the server.
Yeah. So something that's pretty cool here is that we have a question stream message, and then we have we're yielding a question snapshot. That means that the question snapshot is a subclass of the question stream message. I think we are one of the very few RPCs that support inheritance. But when you're working with streams like here, this is really a really useful feature, because then everything can be type safe, both on the client and the server. So it basically can yield two types. You have a question snapshot, which I am guessing is like the full state of our questions, and then it sends updates. So whenever something is changed, that will be streamed back to the user. So that's a pretty typical pattern when you working with streams. You first send one. The first chunk is basically a description of the current state, and then you send the updates. So you don't have to send the full update every time, or like the full state every time.
So this code here, when a client calls question updates, this function runs and it's going to hang out on lines 111 to 112 and 13, basically until that client disconnects, right? Like that await for is just going to stay open.
Yeah, so this is staying open until the client disconnects. Or that the update stream ends, but that will not happen.
Right.
Because we are using
that. Man, that is an easy way to do real time.
Yeah, so this is the whole real-time communication side of this app. But it looks like maybe reloaded. Let's see here. If we do hot restart, let's see. Maybe it did that already. The agent is pretty good at issuing hot restarts, but I don't know if we're getting an old version here now or no. Let's see.
Got a great question here, and I think we've already seen the answer because these questions are still there. So Mivek asks, this embedded DB, does it persist if you restart? Yes. I think we're seeing that it does, but what if I don't want it to? Like, what if I want to clear it? How do I? Well, you said we can access it via Postgres browser, even though we don't know the command for that right now. So that would be where you would maintain it and flush rows if you wanted to reset it.
Right. So I can show how that works. So the database data need to be stored somewhere, right? Indeed. So that will be in the .serverpod directory of your server. And here you have like the Serverpod server development. So you have a different database for different environments. So this also works with Dart test. So if you just run Dart test, it will spin up actually I think multiple Postgres instances, so you can run them in parallel, which is also pretty neat. And then you have the PG data. So this is where we actually stored all our database. So if you want to delete the database, you just delete this directory. And,
okay. And then it just recreates it as needed.
That's all there is to it. But
nice.
That looked like it worked.
What worked? I don't even remember what you asked.
So basically, I took away the need to, if I sign out here, it signs me in right away. Okay, so the sign out button may not be needed.
Or it's not working. It's just like refreshing the page.
Let's remove that. But
so are you gonna? Oh, sorry, you go.
Yeah, I thought we could take this app and put it live online, because that's a pretty cool thing we have been working on.
That's exactly what I was just gonna ask.
So you can see it's like gone. Everything is hot reloaded. Didn't have to do anything. So that's also really cool. Whenever you change a file, either the agent changed the file or you change the file, we will do the hot restart, both the server and your Flutter app. So that's actually something, if you just work with Flutter, it's pretty tricky to set up. I don't know if you have any experience with that, but now if I do just the Flutter app, I will run it through Serverpod just because the hot restart experience is better.
Wait. First, let's get this deployment going, and then I have a couple follow-up questions. And we got a good question in the chat too. We're gonna get to at some point.
Right. So to deploy this to the cloud, we just do for the cloud launch is the command. Let's see, this will work. So here it shows all the different projects I have on Serverpod Cloud. So I created a project before. It's just a web interface. If you want to try it out, it has a free trial of 1 month. And then the cheapest plan, I think, is $19 per month. So I just hit, like, I want to use the Vote Squad project for this. And now it will build our Flutter app, like the Flutter web app. And then it will take a few minutes to get it up into the cloud. And that's basically everything you have to do to deploy your full Serverpod with the database and everything. And we're working on making this faster. So in the future, the deployment may be just 10 seconds, but now it takes like 2 or 3 minutes.
Well, boy, do I not know how you would get it down to 10 seconds. I imagine provisioning the database is the slow part.
That takes like 1 second. So that's not the slow part. The slow part is we are right now building your server and the Docker container in the cloud. So we could potentially, instead of sort of having a pre-built container where we can just build your Dart code and inject that, that would be much faster. So, we are using Serverpod Cloud is built on top of Google Cloud. So their cloud build is a little bit on the slow side. Apparently there's a queue. So sometimes now it's just waiting for getting a slot to build on Google Cloud. But that usually...
Well, I've seen that before.
All right.
All right. Well, wow.
We want to first make everything work like solid, and then we can start working on the optimization.
Making it faster. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So while we wait in line here, you mentioned, and I didn't quite follow it. I think I was thinking about something else. You said something to the effect of the hot restart or load or both or something experience in Serverpod is better than vanilla Flutter. And what makes it better?
What makes it better is if you are using an agent, the Flutter run command will pick up changes. Or if you run it in the IDE, it will pick up changes you make. It won't pick up the changes that your agent makes.
Yes,
unless
that is
you
correct.
run Flutter through the agent. So you need to instruct it to run it through the MCP server, and then it can do hot-free load. So that's a little bit janky. And another thing that we managed to make in Serverpod is also if you do changes that require you to recompile the app, we do that automatically for you.
By that, you mean a hot restart or even more than that? Like
more than
kill
that.
it and rerun. Okay.
Yeah. So we'll detect if you add external libraries, and then we do like a full recompile just without.
Oh, okay. Well, that is nicer. You were kidding.
All right. So we have our app is built, and now we are waiting to roll it out into production. So that's spinning up new Docker containers and whatnot in the cloud. It's
amazing.
Like a magic part.
I'm having the time of my life over here, by the way. I haven't touched my keyboard, I don't think, since this stream started. So this is just, I'm on easy street over here. You're doing all the hard work. This is great.
Right.
It's like, look, Ma, no hands.
Well, I don't do much either, to be fair. I just like typed a few prompts, which is pretty wild that works nowadays. So
yeah, we're living in crazy times. That's for sure. Mivek says, Victor, you should be doing push-ups right now.
This is my rest day.
Oh, nice. Okay. I was just laughing at thinking about first having like a a push-ups or pull-ups during compiled deployment rule to stay fit, but then like getting so annoyed at that you like that's what drives you to optimize the deployment story. So then you don't have to do push-ups anymore. But that's how you're gonna get really, these 1-2 second deployments you're talking about.
Yeah.
Make the infra team do push-ups every time they're waiting for a deployment. They'll get that down right quick. All right, we do have a question in chat. What is RAM usage like while in use? And this question went back pre-deployment, so this is just on your development machine.
Everything was on the development machine before.
Yeah, so they're wondering, like, you got this Postgres service running. Obviously, there's the Dart server, there's Flutter, everything. I think they're wondering, is it a big development? Is the development environment a big memory footprint on a laptop? Have you measured it?
I think like our stuff is not that big. I think the Postgres is maybe 50 megabytes. Serverpod is maybe 20, somewhere around that.
So okay, so as long as the computer is less than 25 years old, it should have enough memory. Is that what you're saying?
I mean, Flutter is 1 gigabyte in comparison, or maybe more. So I think like our stuff is not the heavy part here.
Much smaller. Yeah, if you're running a simulator, if you're running an emulator,
those are the heavy
Chrome.
parts.
Yeah, I that was my suspicion as well, but I figured I'd let you answer rather than just make up an answer on my own. But that was my guess.
All right, that took a little bit longer than it usually takes, but let's see if we have it up in the cloud. So that would be Boot Squad.
Well, first of all, show us how would I get the URL?
So you have the URL down here.
Oh, they're literally printed right there in front of my face.
Yes.
Nice.
So what it will deploy for you is both a web app that is on a web server. Then you have the API, which will be on another URL. And then you have Serverpod Insights, which allows you to read logs and basically see what's happening inside your server in real time. It will show you how much CPU you're using and stuff like that as well.
Well, that's lovely. And this, of course, not that we need to do it, but you can supply your own URLs if you want, I presume.
Yeah, of course. So that is really easy to set up as well. It's just a few commands. So we can, I don't know if you can do it yet in the web interface, but you will soon. There's some.
So Eunice, nice. Eunice, who asked about memory usage, said that their first PC had 64 megabytes of RAM. So I think they're good. Even the first PC they ever owned could run Serverpod and fit it in memory, but not the rest of Flutter.
Yeah. So apparently my colleague says that you can already do custom domains in the console, so you don't even need to use the CLI for that. But let's see if it's actually up and running. So if we go to, let's see, I'll do it here. bootsquad.serverpod.space will be the domain. When someone is here before me.
Oh, well, don't mind me while I pull this up. So folks, head over to votesquad.serverpod.space and get your questions in. I'm joining the room. Oh, it just auto signed me in anonymously. We just skipped the button entirely. Yeah, I realize that now. Okay. How many push-ups can you do in one deployment on a non-rest day? Victor. Boom.
All right. I'll upvote that question. Or why Yeah.
Careful, you're about to disrupt your rest day over here. That's what I know.
On a non-rest day, oh, well, I say it takes 4 minutes. I can probably do at least 70, I think.
We got some flags. I think that's the Croatian flag. I'm from Croatia. I think that's the Croatian flag. I'm not great at all the world's flags. All right. So now one of the dreams that you had here was that we would solicit new features to build into the app.
Right.
So I do have an actual
to have your favorite features featured in a live stream.
I do have an actual suggestion here on account of just using this UI for 1 second. The instantaneous updates as it reorders are, I think, a little jarring. So I would be interested in cutting in line ahead of any features that anybody else asks for and seeing if we could get like in-place reordering, like animated reordering instead of it just snapping to the new ordering.
Right. Yeah, let's try it. I am minimizing this for now.
But also the real number one upvoted question is when will this be released as stable? And that's sometime in September, right?
Early September. We are aiming for 1st of September. So it's very, very close. I mean, the things you see here they are all stable. It's mostly getting all our ducks in a row and making a bit of a push around it, because it's really, I think this is really next level when it comes to like full stack development. I haven't seen any other framework that can do what we can do. I don't know if you have.
No. Dart type safety is pretty great.
And hot restart for the full stack.
Yeah.
Have you seen
that? That is pretty sick.
I think Dart is the only language that will be possible to build.
Yeah, probably. I mean, all other frameworks are like, after the world saw hot reload with Flutter, everyone else went, oh gosh, boy, do we need that. And I don't know how many languages have actually delivered anything, but I do think it's on a lot of folks' radars. So, give it in a couple of years, I wouldn't be surprised if more languages have it, but I'm not sure. For now, we've cornered the market.
Yeah, I think, I mean, they probably can get to pretty similar things by keeping a sort of a page, if you will. Like web pages are kind of, if you have a website, it's stateful in the sense that you can stay on the same page. So I assume that's pretty easy to do, but like keeping the full state is another story.
Right. Yeah, that takes very intentional framework level architecture. Like, the element tree is extremely important in Flutter for delivering stateful hot reload.
And also replacing the code while the app is running is an element that I don't think any other computer language can do.
Yeah, I'm not aware of, but also not an expert on the underlying bits.
Maybe JavaScript can to some extent.
Yeah, because Flutter has hot reload on the web, and that's happening in JavaScript, and in fact doesn't even work on WASM yet, though it will soon. So JavaScript can at a minimum, yeah. And I remember seeing a stateful hot reload demo in JavaScript like 15 years ago. So it's been able to do it for a long time.
Yeah, so that may be possible. I mean, it's a quite dynamic language where you can replace kind of anything, even code, like programmatically, I think, right?
Programmatically replace code? I'm not...
like dynamic programming. So you can add like a method that is typed in as a string, kind of.
Oh, like evals. Yeah, like eval, the old version of eval, not an LLM eval, where you just,
Yeah,
yes, what you're saying, yes. You supply a string and you say, execute this as if it was proper code, and it's like the least safe thing in the universe because,
yeah,
boy, is that abusable.
yeah. But it's also allows you to change anything in the program while it's running.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
shall we try to feature?
Yeah, how's it doing?
I haven't typed it in. Make it so that.
Wait a minute. We haven't even been doing this yet? Viktor, come on. All right. While you finally do this, ignore me. I'm just going to read chat.
Will this be a good enough prompt for this? Let's try it.
Make it so the items are nicely animated while they change place. I think that will. I think it's going to know what's going on there. We do have some actual. There's a lot of just silliness in the UI, but there are some real feature requests like pinning a message, downvoting a message.
Yeah.
Anything else? Make an answered question section. So like archiving, that makes sense.
Okay, cool.
Oh, and then could you attach the user account to each vote? So we'll probably get to like maybe one more of these, but
yeah,
and I'll let you choose. I guess maybe people should actually vote. Why don't we do that? People vote on the real features that are in here, and the highest actual feature will that can be what Viktor asks Claude to work on next.
Yeah. Well, so this gives me a chance to show another feature because now the app seems to not be open anymore. So I can hit Control R here, and we have an app launcher. So I can just click there, and it will start our app again. So you can configure Serverpod to have multiple apps running at the same time, and these can be, different devices. If you have an iPhone device, or you have an Android simulator, or a Mac app, but it can also be if you have different apps. Like maybe you want to have an app that is an admin app, and then you have an app like the main app people are using. So you can set that up also and have them launch from Serverpod.
While this cooks, Mivek asks, are you still using the embedded DB on the cloud? That answer is a no, because then you would not be able to horizontally scale. So this is talking to a real Postgres instance. And I'm sure that is why you were asking that question, out of an awareness that you would not be able to horizontally scale. Okay, here we go. Third question, local here.
We'll see.
Yeah. Okay, now let's upvote one.
Whoa!
Let's go.
Let's go. That worked. You see, not really Serverpod stuff. I mean, that's all happening in the Flutter app, I'm guessing, but still cool. That's a neat feature.
That's a good point. We should do. Oh, can you kick off a deployment for this so that we can get this new feature in production, and then we'll finish voting on the next feature? How about that?
All right. We just run the launch command again, and off it goes. So these are some actually cool features that we have in Serverpod Cloud that we added. It doesn't just run your server and your database. It also has support for a CDN. So when you are serving things from a single server, can be pretty expensive and slow it down, right? So things like your Flutter app, or if you have images, those will be cached in the CDN. So they load like super fast from the edge, except the very first time you load them. So for most users, it will be like a really fast.
So and you are just configuring that in the Google Cloud deployment happening behind the scenes. Is that right?
Exactly. And there are a lot of magic to make all this work. We have our own. We had to build our own load balancers because I mean, the Google load balancers can scale to any size. That's not a problem, but it can scale to host 1,000 domains, for instance. So it doesn't scale in the way that you can have a load balancer serve 1,000 apps.
Oh, right. So if you had,
you can have a single or you can have 10 apps. That's not a problem. That's like super big, but building it like scale for very many, that is much harder.
So would this be, the use case here would be someone whose customers each get their own subdomain, something like that?
Yeah, exactly, for subdomains. And everyone, all our users basically have 3 subdomains by default.
Right.
And then they can also attach their own domains. Yeah, that's been a little bit.
I'd love to see the insights server before we're done too. I think it would be a mistake to skip that. I have not looked at the insight server in a while, so I don't know what you've changed in it. And folks should see it.
I'm opening up the Serverpod console here. So these are all my projects. We have Woodscored here, so I'll jump there. And the insights part of this is still a little bit work in progress to make it really nice. You can see we are in the building stage of the deployment here. So that's also updated in real time. This is a Flutter web app, by the way. Nice. So you can see the server logs here. You have sessions. So you can see here some exception has happened. Already voted exception.
Oh.
So that's pretty cool. Maybe that shouldn't be actually an exception.
Yeah, just disable the button.
Yeah, exactly. So, but it's unhandled exceptions will show up here basically. And then you can also see metrics. So this is like the number of open connections we're having. You can see the database response time, CPU usage. We're using like, I think 10% maybe when everyone loaded up at the same time. And then it's down to like 1-2%. And you can see the memory usage. And
this is really great.
And then you can see like the different deployments you've made and what's going on with them. You can see the deployment build logs if you need to. You can set up environments and passwords to configure your database.
Secrets?
Here?
That's it. I love that you have managed secrets from the console. That's awesome.
Yeah, so to make things like authentication work out of the box, you need to set up some secrets.
Yeah.
For email. So when you deploy a default Serverpod configuration, when you run it locally, you saw we had this. It will print out on the console your confirmation number that you need to enter. But if you deploy to Serverpod Cloud, it will actually send you an email. So that will just work out of the box. And then, I mean, you can easily configure it if you want to use your own email service or anything like that. But
so back in the day,
Serverpod,
when you ran Serverpod create, you would get you had like dev.yaml, staging.yaml, production.yaml, whatever the names of those files were, and they had these secret values. And I remember it kind of being you're on your own a little bit to figure out how you use those secrets without committing them to Git. And it was a little bit of a choose your own adventure.
Yeah.
But now if you're deploying here, are you still using this production.yaml, and are you like creating a new one on the server only that is generating these secrets? Like does Serverpod Quick Start even still make a production.yaml? Like how does that work?
So the way it works is we still have the YAML files for configuring stuff, but if you can also define all those configurations with environment variables. So if you do that, they will override whatever in the YAML file.
I see.
So in Serverpod Cloud, we set all these environment variables for you.
See.
So everything is just configured, so it will know how you connect to the database. It will manage the password. You will never see it. Stuff like that.
Yeah, nice.
But if you have a database and you need to access it, you can just add a user here. and
connect. Nice.
then you can like set up a custom password and just connect, and you'll get the connection info. You can also do backups. We can create a snapshot of the database by just saying like, make a snapshot.
The Serverpod Cloud console has come a long way since I last saw it, on account of like it basically not existing last time I saw it.
Yeah. So now we have a backup of the database. So now we can set it on a schedule, so you get a backup every day. So all these things just work. If you need to scale it up, you can edit your plan to set the range of how many servers you want to have, but it has a cap. So that means, I mean, that's a common complaint with, say, Firebase.
Yep.
Someone makes an error and all of a sudden they have a bill of like $100,000, and that's not super fun. So here you can set the max cap basically of how many servers do we want it to be.
And this is database scaling, right? Not like Cloud Run worker node scaling.
This is Cloud Run worker node.
That is okay.
Scaling.
Now your database provider. Sorry, you go.
Yeah, same for the database. Also, okay. So you can choose different sizes. But
I see. Now your database provider has database scaling, right?
Yeah.
Is that?
I can see what it looks like. So we have basically 3 different databases. You have a medium and large, and the large plus. And large plus can scale dynamically. And here you can also set the range, like a top sort of scale.
Okay.
And you can see like,
you can get real big.
You have 60, you can have like 4 million queries per minute, approximately. It's like obviously it depends on your queries, but it's sort of
right
based on benchmarks.
If you're not totally abusing, you want lots of cache hits, you not joining across like 80 million things. Yeah, you certainly can.
Yeah.
Querying against index, any where clauses should always be on a table with an index. Like if you have those things, you can probably hit those 4 million queries a second.
I mean, that's a pretty cool thing you can see in the sessions here. So some, I don't know why this took a long time sometimes.
Is that the length? Is that how long someone was connected?
Maybe. This is still a little bit of work in progress, obviously, but here you can set the settings to log slow queries. And if you have a database query that is slow, it will show up here, and then you can
sort it out
or pinpoint what error is. So I think internal sessions that I don't know where they're using that, but typically they should be pretty fast and not long-lived. So maybe that's another skill that we need to add. I mean, it will work, but it's just
you have
great practice to use.
There's the open, where the client is watching the stream. So I don't know that the internal. I don't know that the sessions would necessarily be fast, given that. I mean, what this is measuring more than I do, but I can imagine.
Yeah, for a stream, it should not show up here. Typically.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, I think the new app.
Amazing. Yeah. Do we have time for another feature, or should we land the plane?
I may need to take off in like 10 minutes. So.
Okay, land the plane.
Land the plane, perhaps.
All right.
Some cool features. Maybe there's some last questions here that we.
Well, Isaac has showed up in the chat and is helping answer them. So that is awesome. keeping our tally of open questions low. But we did have a question: is Serverpod Cloud built with Dart? And Isaac confirmed that yes. And then I just had a chuckle to myself, imagining that it wasn't. That'd be very funny.
It's actually built with Serverpod, so there you
Right.
go.
Yeah, it's like
Using our
no, we
own-
used Django and React, obviously.
That wouldn't
um,
happen.
There's a question here. Does Serverpod's built-in database? Oh no, I thought I could skip that word and follow the question. I could not. Does Serverpod have built-in database seeders, model factories, and dynamic roles and permission things, RBAC?
So
Yes, like fixtures, stuff like that.
this is typically used when you are testing stuff. That's when you want to see the database, and yes, we have support for all that. And you can.
Nice.
We have a really extensive testing framework that works with both the database. I don't know if it works exactly as other frameworks, but we made it in a way that we think is sensible. And you can also test your endpoints without actually starting the server. So it sort of simulates that, and you can test it with different permissions and all that stuff. In Serverpod 4, I don't know if it's in or it will be like a 4.1 feature, but we're also working on things like row-level security for Postgres, and which will be a little bit more important when you have offline sync features like that. So there's a lot of things happening on the database layer of Serverpod as well.
Yeah. Well, congrats to you and the team on landing all these features. I know you must have a roadmap that it stretches past the horizon with everything that you know that you want to build for Serverpod Cloud, if nothing else. But that already a huge, like the tooling that I just saw there was already off to a really great start. Any final thoughts, Viktor, before you get back to living your life this evening?
Right. So I think, if you want to try this out, you can just go to our webpage. I can maybe open that here. Just show you where to go. So you go to all the cookies in the world. And we have a little blurb for the Serverpod 4 beta, and there's a blog post, and you can find a quick start guide here. Installing Serverpod is literally typing start install Serverpod CLI, and then you need to do the 4.0.0 beta. The latest is 3, so we should probably update that. But then you just do a Serverpod quick start, my project, and you run Serverpod start, and that's it. So it's really, I mean, it's as easy as I showed here. Those are the only commands you need to run before if you have Flutter installed.
Nice. And to get the skills and the MCP and everything installed, that's just picking which agent you want to use, which you also showed. So like the full setup, super duper easy.
If you use Cursor, you need to enable the MCP servers. If you're using Claude or then that just works. It does not work with anti-gravity unless you're using anti-gravity CLI. It works with anti-gravity CLI, but not anti-gravity because, I don't know, Google stuff that maybe you know more about. I'm in touch with those guys, but it's a little bit hard.
Well, you can ask me any questions you have for them, and then I'll try to get you an answer. There's a big question here about the offline sync. It's coming in 4 parts, but basically someone's asking, like, how truly offline first with conflict resolution and everything is this new data sync model that you've talked about?
It's all of it. It's like the bestest version of it.
Great. So spare no expense.
There is no expenses spared on that one. So it's not like Firebase has something similar, which is like offline caching where the latest wins. It's not like that. It's true offline sync. And Incredible. It works on the cell level, and it also works with database relations. So it can, like, if you delete a row, it will keep track of the things that may be connected and also should be deleted and stuff like that. So It's pretty
Pretty
rad.
amazing. Pretty amazing. Yeah, I've built a much more primitive version than what you're talking about with my data layer package. And now I'm wondering would I even use my own package, because I obviously like Serverpod. So I'm probably inclined to just lean into this kind of syncing that Marcelo wrote, and then
Yeah,
I can just benefit from that.
right. Yeah, I also have done this for an app I built, and it was a lot of work. It's
Oh
a
yeah,
harder problem than one would
it's
think.
so much work, and it was fun. Like I wrote it for me. It was all pre AI, so like it was. That's some of my actual proudest engineering is the like lowest level guts of this data layer package and how it handles offline stuff and whatnot. But it is not the most feature complete, like you just said, right? I would never describe my package as that. So I'm excited to kick the tires on this.
Yeah, I am too. I haven't really played around it. I've seen the demos. Yeah, I'm excited to try
All
it out in my own apps in the future for sure.
right, possible final thought here from the Peanut Gallery. Cool framework. Thanks, guys. As a Flutter engineer coming from .NET, Serverpod definitely scratches an itch I've always had. Well, boy, do I agree with that. All right, Viktor. Well, enjoy the rest of your evening. Thanks so much for coming by and showing everybody Serverpod 4.0 coming to a CDN near you in the
Yeah,
beginning of September. And I personally can't wait. So enjoy your evening. And folks, everybody else, I forgot to look at my schedule in advance. I think I'll be here next week, but we'll see. And until next time, everybody, happy fluttering.
yeah. Thank you.